Hey everyone, I'm Evan Ash, and welcome to episode 285 of the Sports Ballers podcast. It's blazing hot outside, and tonight we'll try to cool off with a tall glass of whatever we feel like talking about during the quietest period of sports for the year. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Evan Ash, joined as always by Corey Puffett and Eric Meyer. How are y'all doing today?
Hot.
Hungry.
Hot and hungry.
Okay.
I'm not hungry. I ate.
Oh, I didn't eat, and it's hot.
I'm not hot. I'm unattractive, so, There you go.
I don't think that.
I know you don't, because you're comparing my looks to Kristen Cole while we're watching friggin' Game of Thrones.
Yeah. He used to be hotter than you. Now he's not.
I agree. I actually do agree with that. He looks like crap.
That haircut did not do him any favors.
Nah, it looks very strange.
No idea who that is.
You need to watch better TV.
Better TV? I
Yeah.
don't watch any.
You gotta watch some TV, actually.
Anyway, stuff that's on TV that I also don't watch. The National Basketball Association. What is going on over there? Klay Thompson to the Mavs for some reason?
Yeah.
Yeah. They gave him money, and he said, I'll play basketball for you for 3 years.
All right.
Sounds like a fair trade to me.
So obviously the bigger, or not really bigger, but a big piece of this news isn't so much the fact that he's joining the Dallas Mavericks.
So he's
It's
no
the fact
longer
that
a
he's
Warrior.
leaving the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, he's no longer one of the Splash Bros.
Yeah, the Splash Bros have been split up. No ups for Glaber there on a line drive by Yandy. Anyway, so yeah, this is kind of we kind of saw this coming a little bit just based off of the way Thompson had acted during the season. But it still kind of shocks you when it actually happens, right? Like when the day finally comes where it's like, oh, Klay Thompson is not being employed by the Golden State Warriors anymore. He chose to play somewhere else. And it sounds like there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama with this, as one would expect with a team like the Warriors who stay in the headlines even in the last couple of years where they haven't been that good. Most of that's Draymond Green centered, but Klay Thompson has had his share of issues too. Last year, at one point, he was benched during crunch time because he was playing poorly, and he threw a visible fit on the bench. There was a period of time where he was no longer in the starting lineup, and he did not handle that particularly gracefully, at least initially, but then seemed to accept it for a little while. But apparently that those moments affected him in a way that basically altered his relationship with the Golden State Warriors to a point where it was no longer feasible for him to play there. And apparently when the time came for him to get a contract offer from the Warriors, he told Steph Curry, don't put your thumb on the scale here. Like, do not twist their arm to try to, get me paid. I want them to do it on their own. Like, so don't exert your influence on them to make them say, hey, give us money or give Klay some money to keep him here. I want them to do it on their own. And they didn't do it. So Klay opted to leave. Even though he signed for less money per year with the Mavericks than what the Warriors initially offered, there was still a feeling, I guess, of disrespect. Felt like he was he was owed something and he wasn't given it, which I don't think is really true.
I don't think it's true either. I mean, he's been playing on a max contract for the past 4 years, or 5 years, except that he hasn't really been playing on a max contract for 5 years. Yeah, because he spent half of that time injured.
Yes.
And that's not a shot at Klay at all. I mean, anybody can get injured. It's not like he purposefully went out there and got himself injured or just like faked an injury so he wouldn't have to play and could get paid for free. Like nobody believes that was something that happened here. But you made out like a bandit. You made a lot of money for not producing on the court. Now, he's still working during that time. Let's be clear. Like when you're injured, like if anything, from my experience as an athlete, you're working a lot harder within your athletic endeavors when you're hurt than when you're not.
Sure.
Like rehab is a lot more challenging, a lot more time consuming than practices and competition.
All-Star West.
That said,
by the way.
It doesn't help your team win.
No.
If anything, it hurts because not only are you not out there and you're a really good player who would help them win if you were out there, but it's also less money that they have to pay somebody else to come in and help the team perform well. So you're hurting them in two different ways there. So I can't blame the Warriors for not wanting to dole out another max contract or something of a similar, level.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, something to keep in mind is it's not like it's a situation where the Warriors paid Klay Thompson and then he got hurt. He tore his ACL during the NBA Finals. Mm-hmm. So they opted to give him that max contract knowing full well that for at least that first year, he was not going to be out there. So they took care of him in that context, which means there was some goodwill that should have been earned just with the fact that they said, let's give this guy a 5-year max when we know that he's not going to be up next year.
One would think. And then, when you do finally come back, seemingly for good, like he's been healthy for a couple of seasons now, he has not been the same Klay Thompson.
No.
He's shown flashes. He's had good games here and there. Mm-hmm. Occasionally he might string together back-to-back good games, but did he ever have 3 straight good games during those entire 2 seasons? Because it certainly didn't feel like it.
I mean, he may have. Your boy Rodon's getting rocked, by the way.
I'm cutting his ass after tonight.
He's halfway to a Dylan Bundy special.
Hey, there's a Isaac Paredes article.
Isaac Paredes.
Isaac, I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah. That's true because he's
found that out this year.
I have an Isaac shout out later, but anyway. So yeah, he hasn't played well. He went 0 for 10 in an elimination game as his last game as a Golden State Warrior. Like it's tough to sit there and say you didn't get what you deserved from the team when you went out like that. You went out like a sucker. I mean, he didn't make a single All-Star appearance under that contract. Now, realistically, he could only have a chance to make 2 because he came back in the middle of the 2022 season. It was like January when he made his return. He's not going to be an All-Star selection.
No.
But his play was not that of an All-Star. It wasn't even that of like an above-average player. It was a poor player. He was a subpar player on the whole. Now, he had some stretches when Steph Curry was injured in 2023 where he played really, really well and helped buoy that team when they were struggling a little bit. Him and, to his credit, Jordan Poole, that was like the only stretch of season that they played good baseball. But in the playoffs, basketball, I'm sorry. We got baseball on here. Very confusing and distracting, but that's okay. Yeah, he just wasn't that good for them. And frankly, I think that the Warriors, from their perspective, they've been really, really buried by the new CBA with regards to this second apron rule that they have when it comes to going over a certain amount of the luxury tax, where it basically handcuffs you to the point where you can't even sign like mid-level free agents or anything like that. And with having Klay Thompson being on a max contract, having Steph Curry obviously on the super max, which he definitely deserves, and with Draymond Green getting his contract extension, with Andrew Wiggins earning decent money, with Chris Paul trade, yada yada yada, they just they haven't been in a position to have any financial flexibility for years, and it's kind of a case of, hey, this is an opportunity for us to get out from under some of these bigger contracts, because if you extend Klay, even if it's for less money, it's still gonna be a decent chunk of change. And it keeps you out from being able to do what you need to do to make the team better, especially under the new rules. And so they probably saw this as an opportunity to turn the corner. They've struck out with what they wanted to do otherwise, right? Like they wanted to potentially acquire somebody like Paul George. Like they were trying to put together a trade package for him. The Clippers refused to play ball because they hate the Warriors. That's life of a dynasty, that when you kick the crap out of a team year after year, they might not want to give you an all-star. So the Clippers,
a bag of beans.
Yeah, the Clippers were willing to give up Paul George for nothing. Like he walked and signed with the Sixers,
but not to the Warriors.
Yeah, but they felt that there was better equity in not letting Paul George go to the Warriors and potentially revitalizing that team back into contention, because that may do that. Like Paul George is a very, very good basketball player, and he would be a very good fit next to Steph Curry, especially if they still had Draymond Green, which obviously Green wouldn't be involved in the trade like that. And they probably wouldn't get great return, but sometimes you're willing to take nothing to not let the Warriors be that team versus hey, we could have gotten something in return, but hey, Golden State's going to kick the crap out of us for another 2 or 3 years and maybe win another championship. That's not going to work for Steve Ballmer. He's not into that. Mm-hmm. So, Clay's got an opportunity to do something with the Mavericks, right? Like, it seems on paper to be a good fit. But I don't think that the Mavericks are suited to take advantage of Clay's best asset, which is the ability to shoot on the move, because nobody moves in that offense. It's Luka Doncic does his thing, or Kyrie does his thing, and everybody else kind of stands around the perimeter waiting to catch and shoot. Now, Klay Thompson is a very effective catch and shoot guy. He still shot 39% from 3 last year, but you can find a lot of guys that can catch and shoot in the corner at a high level. Yeah. Klay Thompson's main asset was he moves without the ball, which creates chaos. Not quite to the degree that Steph Curry did. We know that, but he was probably a top 5 movement shooter in basketball, and now he's probably less than that, but still that's kind of what he does. So there's a little bit of a skill loss here. Like, there's a little bit of residual loss in the fact that they're not going to be able to really take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned this earlier, Paul George to Philadelphia.
Yes.
Playoff P.
Trying to
play in the playoffs in the P.
Sure. Thanks, Corey. That was something. We'll try. So anyway, this is a good move for Philly because they needed another star. But again, the issue with Philly every year is health. Is Joel Embiid going to be healthy for a playoff run? And the answer last year was no. That's why they lost to the Knicks. And frankly, with the Knicks getting better and the Celtics being defending champions, it's just kind of hard for me to look at the Sixers and say, oh yeah, they're a bona fide contender now. But Paul George makes a difference. Now, Paul George has had his own health issues in recent years. He's north of 30, and he's not necessarily a guy you would rely on to be there for 80 games a year. The key is obviously to get all of these guys through the season healthy, which may mean they need to rely on Tyrese Maxey to carry the load a little bit more during the regular season because he's young, he's got fresher legs, and he's really, really good. So, but having those 3 guys as your top 3, and I'm assuming they're not paying Tobias Harris anymore. I think somebody else paid him a bunch of money for no reason, but I forgot who that was. That helps. But again, I'm not sure. It's hard to have faith in Philly just because even when they try their hardest to position themselves to be healthy in the playoffs, they're not. Something happens. Something always goes wrong with Embiid or with somebody, and it's not great. Corey, did you look up Tobias Harris's current situation?
I did, and I saw the headline that he's eclipsed $300 million in career earnings.
Mm-hmm. He's the highest paid non-All-Star of all time.
2 years, $52 million going back for his second stint in Detroit.
Good for him.
I didn't know he had a first stint.
I didn't either, apparently. Okay. He did.
Well,
he just loves playing for those red, white, and blue teams.
Really? He was a Piston? When did that happen? Okay.
Let's see.
That was a Stan Van move, probably.
Your boy.
He spent 3 seasons in Detroit early in his career.
Okay, early in his career, because I know he was a Clipper when he started becoming like
another red, white, and blue team.
Yes. So yeah, we were talking about the Sixers. Yes. So yeah, like they're probably the second or third best team in the East at this point, behind Boston, maybe New York. Got to talk about the Knicks too, because they did make a significant trade before free agency got underway. They acquired Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn, just right across the bridge. And so now they're the Nova Knicks. They've got 4 members of the 2016 Villanova National Championship team. 3 of those players were on the 2018 winner. The exception there was Josh Hart. He had already gone to the NBA by the time Villanova had won that second championship. So those 4 players are Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and White Dante DiVincenzo. So that's, it's pretty cool. It's a little interesting that they're all boys, and they're all good basketball players for the most part, right? Like Josh Hart's okay.
Yeah.
But Jalen Brunson, we talked about it during the playoffs, has established himself probably as a top 10 player in basketball. And Mikal Bridges is one of the best, I guess you would call him a glue guy. Mm-hmm. He's an excellent glue guy in terms of the fact that he's an excellent perimeter defender. He plays 82 games a year every year. He's got like some 400-something odd game streak going on, obviously the longest in the league.
Yep.
And Dean Kramer just got a ridiculous call in his favor. That was hilarious. Anyway, and then
you've got all the help he can get.
And then you've got Dante DiVincenzo, who was the real most improved player, but because of the dumb rules, he didn't play enough minutes. he wasn't given the award.
Enough minutes or games?
Enough minutes.
Wait, they have a minutes?
They had a minutes
requirement
rule.
for
Yeah,
it?
and he missed it by like 10. It was outrageous because he definitely played enough games, but since he spent a decent chunk of the season coming off the bench, he wasn't logging enough minutes apparently, which is dumb because the problem with the most improved player since until the last few years was it pretty much turned into a who scored more points than last year. Well, typically the reason why players' numbers go up in that regard is because
they play more minutes.
They were sitting on the bench, the starting guard left. They took over and were playing 35 minutes a game, and so they got twice as many shots and they made more buckets. But they didn't actually get better.
Yeah, so
they're
like
just getting more time.
If you're making more shots, scoring more points on, either the same number of minutes or a smaller increase in minutes, that would suggest that you're shooting more efficiently and that you have actually improved.
Yeah, well, Dante DiVincenzo's improvement was visible. He was really, really good this last year, and he had some great playoff games as well. Like this Knicks team, dare I say, is fun. Right? This is a fun team.
It is.
Like this is a team that honestly, Boston's the favorite, clearly. But if you put a healthy Knicks team against that Celtics team, it would be a war. Because not just because of the quality of the players the Knicks have, but because of the style of play, because of the way that Tom Thibodeau likes to get down. It's not going to be easy. And if the Celtics have injury issues like they did this postseason with Kristaps Porzingis missing pretty much the entire playoffs, there's a window there where the Knicks could win the East. Like I'm not saying I expect it. I'm saying it's on the table, and there's a horrible throw by Gunnar Henderson. I don't think he would have gotten the out anyway, but
Volpe's better. I'm just kidding.
Because Kramer tipped the ball. It was
I didn't
an
realize
awkward
that.
squibber. Yeah. So it's Kramer's fault.
Oh, I know you just want to blame Kramer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Clanked it.
So I don't think Gunnar gets an error on that because the runner didn't advance. But he did advance. Never mind.
It went out of play.
I didn't see if it went out of play.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that's really all I have on the Knicks. Is there anybody? There's another thing that happened.
Yeah.
LeBron is back with the Lakers, as is LeBron James Jr.
Yes,
on the
he's
Lakers.
yeah, Bronny and LeBron.
Oh my God! And just
Can we call them Bronny and Bronny Senior?
sure.
If you want, that's fine. That doesn't hurt my feelings. So anyway, yeah, LeBron opted out and then re-upped with the Lakers, which is what everybody expected him to do. He got a lot of credit for being willing to take less money if the Lakers could go land a high-quality free agent. Of course, he didn't actually have to because the Lakers didn't do that. Like, the Lakers failed to get Klay Thompson. That was the main wish list item, if you will, for the Lakers was to go get Klay Thompson. And they probably should have. They had the inside track. Logically, Klay's from L.A. Klay's dad calls games for the Lakers, right?
I thought his dad called games for the Clippers.
No, Lakers.
Oh.
And
okay.
he's a former Laker. Like, so that there's a connection there. And Klay was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. And hell, what would piss off Warriors people more than anything is for them to go to the Lakers. But Klay apparently his attitude was that the Lakers are basically the same thing as the Warriors, which is an aging team with a superstar on it that's probably past the point of realistically contending for a championship and comes with a whole lot of high profile and a whole lot of ridiculous expectations. So he decided to go to Dallas instead, where he'd be third option behind Kyrie and Luka, and also a better team. Like, this team was just in the NBA Finals, figures a better shot to get a ring. So no soup for the Lakers. They're out on Klay Thompson. They're out on everybody pretty much. But I think LeBron did take like a $3 million discount.
Ooh.
Yeah. Only $101 million over 2 years instead of $104 to keep the Lakers out of the dreaded
That's
second.
like the
How is
that's
LeBron
like the
gonna feed his
equivalent
family
of
on that?
That's like the equivalent of me like patting myself on the back because I took a $30 pay cut to continue working at DeMatha or something. Like,
$30 a year.
That's right. Yeah, that's what
After
I mean.
you'd already made a ton of money.
Like, why is he getting any credit, much less a lot of credit?
Because people on Twitter and fandoms love to slurp
Have too
their
much
guys.
free time.
Yeah, it's the summer. It's the silly season. You gotta talk about something. So yeah, that's all I got on the Lakers. Bronny's there. I don't really care about him or his situation or the nepotism. It is what it is. Should it exist? No, but it is what it is. Like I can't do anything about it. He's there.
The Lakers might have screwed themselves again, right? Like,
it's possible that it's possible that the 56th pick or the guy they actually had on their board as better turns out to be a Nikola Jokic type that just blossoms into an MVP player as a second-round pick. Highly unlikely.
But it'd be hilarious.
But I guess you could argue that maybe it's possible. Bronny does too. I think it's less likely than anything else. But yeah, he's there. I don't care.
Alrighty. Let's see. I want to jump to Major League Baseball and talk about them O's who are just screwing up everything tonight. Notably, Dean Kramer's on the mound, and it's an adventure. But Orioles this past week went 4-2 on the West Coast trip, winning 2 out of 3 in Seattle and then 2 out of 3 in Oakland. Eric and I were there for the Friday game in Oakland.
Yes.
So Orioles are coming into today 3 games up in the AL East on the Yankees. Finish off the stretch of 30 games in 31 days at 18-12, which is pretty good.
600 ball, yeah.
Yeah. The All-Star team has been named. Gunnar and Adley are starting All-Star game. Corbin Burns was selected. I guess they haven't named who's the starting pitcher yet.
I don't think they have, but I don't know if he will be chosen, but it's either him or Skubal, right?
For the Tigers?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would probably give it to Burns. Skubal's had 1 or 2.
Oh my God. Look who it is again.
Skubal's had 1 or 2 pretty bad outings this year, and
Yeah.
Burns has had like maybe 1 outing that was like subpar, and even that was not. It's not. He hasn't had any terrible outings.
He gave up 4 runs in 7 innings. That's the worst outing he's had.
Yeah, Skubal had one where he gave up like 7 or 8 runs in less than 2 innings, I think.
Plus, I also think that there's a couple of things that should be at play here. Number one, the Orioles are really good, and I think that you should showcase if when in doubt, you should showcase the team with the better record.
Also,
And
the Orioles play in the AL East, and while the AL Central is certainly much better than we expected it would be going into the season, it is still an inferior division.
Yeah, and number two, this is a television show. Corbin Burns pitching to Adley Rutschman in the first inning makes sense, right? That's the battery, right? Like this is probably your best pitcher in the American League so far this year. This is definitely your best catcher. They play on the same team. It would be poetic for them to start the game, so I think they should go with him. But I'm also coming from an Orioles fan, so either way, he's there.
Also there, Jordan Westberg.
Yes,
Named an All-Star today.
Yes.
Rafael Devers is going to be out with injury.
Yeah.
Injury to his hand, I believe.
Yeah, he
Wrist.
suffered an injury, so he's going to miss the game.
Yeah, so Westy has been subbed in.
He hit too many home runs against the Yankees on Sunday, probably.
That bomb he hit off a Cole was majestic.
How did he get that second one?
The one that was a foot outside, I have no idea. Like I said, it was a Vladimir Guerrero type home run. It was absurd.
We were listening on radio. I never looked up the highlight.
I checked it out.
Just a comedy of errors over here. I can't. Let's see. Several other deserving Orioles were quote unquote snubbed.
I didn't write snubbed. I just said that they were.
I'm saying snubbed.
Okay.
I think most notably is Anthony Santander. He's 4th in the American League in home runs. He hit 16 home runs in the month of June.
It's absurd. Yeah.
Yeah, just ridiculous. From both sides of the plate. He's turned himself into a pretty good outfielder too.
He made a diving catch that saved a run in the first inning today too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who would you take off the All-Star roster for him?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody.
I mean, I need to know who though. Like who?
You got to pick somebody.
Like because you can't just say like, oh, he deserves to be because he had this stat. If there's 4 guys who were better, if there are 4 guys who were better than him, then he doesn't deserve to be there.
4 guys.
Well, it's a lot more than 4 to fill out the All-Star roster's outfield. Like you got to have like 6 or 7 outfielders, right? Like
Do they have that many?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they only play like 3 innings or so. Like
There's no internet in here. Oh, here it goes.
Tony was certainly deserving of selection. A big part of this is the fact that the American League has a laughably higher amount of talent than the National League. And so you've got a bunch of guys that look like all-stars that aren't going to be selected in the American League because you only have so many spots. whereas you've got a bunch of gumps in the National League who are going to.
And yet we still had some snubs in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
We'll
no
talk
matter
about
what.
a couple of them in a minute, but
Yeah, so I mean,
Maybe.
I feel like Tony deserved some consideration, but I didn't actually look at the names. I did with the other guys. I looked at Ryan O'Hearn was not selected as a DH option. Yordan Alvarez was selected as a starter, which I think we all agree is appropriate because he's great. But he was passed over for David Fry.
I have no idea.
he's
what
a
that is.
catcher for the Guardians.
Cleveland, yeah. And I take issue
Cleveland
with
can't
this.
hit.
I take issue with this because Fry barely DH'd.
Yeah,
Right,
he's mostly played at catcher.
Yeah, and they've used him at first base and I think a little bit in the outfield. He's only had like 15 starts at DH, whereas O'Hearn has spent half the time this year DHing. And, the numbers are pretty close. I mean, it certainly looks like Fry's a better hitter of the two, but Fry shouldn't be... Like, we watched Jordan Westburg initially be passed over for Marcus Semien because Marcus Semien was a primarily second baseman, and Westburg was considered primarily third, even though he's played quite a bit of time at second. But now you're going to tell me positions don't really matter?
All right, so Fry is actually he's played 22 games at catcher and 21 at DH. Those are his most two common positions this year.
Okay, well, it's less than half of the games are DH, so
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm questioning that one a little bit, but what do I know? And of course, I wrote this in here: Clay Holmes over Craig Kimbrell. I mean,
Ha ha!
yeah.
No.
But also,
I also wrote down in context. I said, I mean, that's awful, but I'm okay with not having another Oriole lose the All-Star game because Felix Bautista was the losing pitcher of last year's All-Star game. So yeah,
you could still have an Orioles losing pitcher
yeah. But if Corbin Burns goes out there and
gives up a run, and then the National League doesn't score any or the American League hitters don't score anything.
it's much more likely that a relief pitcher is going to take the L.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
I've finally pulled up the roster of American League outfielders. Starters: Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Stephen Kwan. No issues there. Jaron Duran, Riley Green, Kyle Tucker are currently on the roster. As
Tucker's hurt too.
Yeah,
though.
Kyle Tucker. He hasn't played in like a month. So
Yeah, I mean, he was amazing early in the season, and that probably, I guess, has just kind of earned him that consideration.
But I don't know that he's playing in the game.
Yeah, he might have to be subbed out.
So I think
maybe
there's an opening for Tony
could
there.
get in there.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah. So that's who I would yank off of there just because he's injured, right? He hasn't played in the regular games. I was just going to play in the All-Star game. Is that it for the Orioles?
I think so. I mean, the Orioles and the Yankees are both losing 4-1 right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's ugly already. So the Yankees, Corey, what is the deal over at the Evil Empire?
Well, I'll start with the good because there hasn't been a lot of that lately.
Okay.
That's a short list.
It was an exciting day on Saturday. Ben Rice, rookie first baseman for the Yankees, also plays a little bit of catcher. He is a Massachusetts native, grew up in Red Sox territory as a Yankees fan, once made his way out to Fenway Park to graffiti the outside of the park with Yankees Rule, which is awesome. He hit 3 home runs to help the Yankees win on Saturday. It was their one win in the 3-game series against the Red Sox. Sunday was finally a strong start for Luis Gil, who had been terrible for 3 straight games. But he did go up a seventh inning home run to Rafael Devers, who then hit another home run later, and the Red Sox ultimately won 3-0 in that game. So you guys already mentioned that Clay Holmes is in the All-Star game for us. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are there for us. It's been a rough month. After sweeping the Giants and the Twins to start the month of June, the Yankees ended June on a 9-13 run, and they've opened July 1-5, and currently on pace to be 1-6 in July if they don't get something going here in this third inning. So it's been bad. We have the worst record in baseball over the past 20 some odd games. Somehow we are still the third best team in the American League, the fifth best in baseball, and we are miraculously only 3 games behind the O's, and that's because the O's have had, they had their own kind of bad stretch there around the same time that our stretch started.
Yeah, we pulled out of
but
ours.
The Orioles have pulled out of theirs. We have not, and that's why, because we were actually holding our lead over the Orioles for a good little bit.
Yeah, because the Orioles lost 5 games in a row.
Yeah, because at the beginning of that run.
But then they won 4 after that. So.
But so the Orioles are beating us by 3 games right now, and we've got to get some things turned around pretty quickly here.
Also, the Red Sox are catching up.
Yeah. Well, because both teams have been underperforming, and particularly the Yankees. That's opened the door for Boston to get back into the mix.
Yeah, y'all are losing to them, which doesn't help, right? Like you've lost now. What have you lost?
Well,
2 series?
We lost 2 series in the past month because I think it was like our 3rd or 4th series after our losing skid began. We won 1 of 3 games in that one, and then we did it again this past weekend.
Yeah, Juan Soto looked a little awkward on this swing and didn't seem comfortable.
Yeah, I'm hoping he didn't
grimacing.
He looked a little ginger walking back to the
Yeah.
dugout. So
I don't like
keep an eye
that.
on that. I wouldn't like it either.
That's a ball. Come on.
Caught the box.
Ump's been a little...
According to that, the actual the broadcast.
According to who then?
The
Some guy just standing there.
The broadcast box is not like the actual box.
There is some difference.
I've seen some pretty big discrepancies between the broadcast box and what is in the MLB at Bat app.
Okay.
The MLB at Bat app is gospel to me, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
That's not the same as the guy standing back there either, right? Like, I think we should use a machine to call balls and strikes.
Yeah,
when
we
got
should.
just some guy. Yeah! Okay.
Yeah.
Angel Hernandez.
I really wish by the way, I really wish that they would stop putting the box on the broadcast. If you want to use it for like a replay of a pitch, I can live with that, but I don't like it in the live shot.
I think the box is what you call balls and strikes, not some guy.
But even then, if it's not gonna, if what the broadcast team is putting on there is not the actual box, that's gonna make it even more frustrating for fans. It's gonna bring umpires back into it.
Oh, we don't
I guarantee you, if we go to robo umps for balls and strikes, and they continue to have the broadcast box on there, and it's not matching up 1-to-1, which it won't, they will bring back real umps, and we'll never get robo umps again.
Oh, jeez. Well, that sounds like a nightmare situation. I sort of put us off track. What?
We got off track.
Yeah. Well, we're done with the Yankees, so we can move on to some Major League Baseball news.
Okay. James Wood has made his debut for the Nats. He's had a good first week.
Yeah.
Slashing. Let's see. Batting .276, OBP .400, and then slugging .414, and then OPS .814.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, through 8 games.
Through 8 games.
Yeah.
First career home run off of Lance Lynn in front of his home fans. So it was in D.C.?
Yeah, that was in D.C. on Saturday. Went Oppo Taco on that one. So, pretty cool for him.
And then also pretty cool, Paul Skeens. First MLB player to be named an All-Star just a year after being drafted first overall.
Yeah.
So, pretty good.
Pretty good.
His girlfriend's also going back to LSU for 5th year.
Yeah.
COVID year.
Oh, okay. Good for her.
Yeah.
With the NIL now, she's making a lot of money, right?
She makes more NIL money than any athlete in the country. She's number 1 by a good margin.
Any athlete, including pro athletes?
Well, including college athletes.
Oh,
She doesn't make more money than LeBron. No.
Okay.
But yeah, her NIL value is through the roof high.
Good.
Get that paper.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I guess that's it for baseball. Ryan Mountcastle just grounded into another double play. So, Albert
thought that was
Pujols-
Tony.
Yeah, it was Tony the first time, I think.
Oh, that was Mountcastle.
I'm pretty sure it was Tony. The one that just happened just now was Tony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Let's see. Moving on.
Verdugo watched a middle pitch
He loves to do that, apparently.
for strike 3.
I've got to make fun of, this is old news, but I'm going to make fun of some umps again.
Oh, good.
Yay.
So I was there Ryan O'Hearn with a little line drive that gets caught by a crash landing dive. Not a particularly graceful play, but it got the job done.
Ian Happ got it done.
That's the same left field that DJ Stewart used to play. So,
well, at least he didn't let it hit him in the head.
you're missing the ball entirely.
Yes. Anyway, so I was there at Oriole Park Thursday the 27th against the Rangers. It was Pride Night. And first inning, I think Corbin Carroll reached. I forget how he got on. He might have gotten a seeing eye single. But he tries to steal second. Adley throws down, throws right on the money. Henderson tags Carroll on his foot, like the bottom of his foot. And the umpire somehow calls Carroll safe at second. Like, the point of contact with the base would be his foot. It's the first thing coming in. How do you miss that call? How is it possible to miss that call? Like, this isn't I tagged you on the shoulder and your foot slid in and I thought maybe your foot beat the tag on the shoulder. No, the spot you're supposed to be looking at to see whether it hits the bag has been touched by the glove with the ball in it, and you called him safe.
I did see that. That was egregious.
Like, I was watching, like, we were on the right field
Did
line.
they correct the call?
Yeah, because the Orioles challenged, and it was immediately overturned because it's obviously... Because I was watching from my seats, I was like, you look pretty out to me from here. And I saw a replay, I'm like, how was this even a question? The umpire's standing right over top of the play, and he just
the
missed
second
it.
base umpire.
Yes.
Who has one job.
Yes, you're only looking at this. This is the play that's happening, and he missed it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's impossible to miss that. Like I feel like you did that on purpose at that point. So
Not impossible, but improbable.
Well, I mean,
it's becoming more and more probable, it seems, with these umpires. They're blind as a bat.
oh yeah. I mean, Angel Hernandez had this job for 30 years, and just would blatantly miss calls all the time. And only relatively recently have we been able to overturn them.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I also got to make fun of C.J. McCollum.
who is that?
C.J. McCollum's a basketball player. I forgot to talk about this. When talking about the new CBA with the second aprons. Well, this is the doing of relatively new NBPA president C.J. McCollum, who, if you've never heard of him, I understand why.
He was a player recently, wasn't he?
He still is a player.
Oh, okay.
Yes, the former president was Chris Paul. Chris Paul's no longer doing that job, apparently. Okay. Well, C.J. McCollum was basically the guy that agreed to this ridiculous CBA that basically cuts the middle class of the NBA out, which is why, people can't get their money. It's basically just say, hey, you can't sign any mid-level free agents or whatever. And CJ did this pretty much to make sure that the Warriors wouldn't be good anymore.
What?
Like, CJ McCollum was Damian Lillard's running mate in Portland for a long time.
Oh, okay.
And
he had a podcast.
He still has a podcast. And CJ has made no mistake of showing his bias toward or against that team. He's gone on First Take and basically said, they're not that good. Steph's not that good. And then Steph won a title. So, he's kind of a silly goose when it comes to that. And, now he's just completely hosed a bunch of NBA players because he didn't want a team he didn't like to keep winning. So, that's not short-sighted or nothing. So, screw you, CJ. You deserve all the contempt you get.
Contempt.
And
they elected this guy.
Meanwhile, he's toiling away in New Orleans, winning nothing. So, sometimes you get what you deserve, and he's getting what he deserves right now. Okay, and the NBA's draft coverage was awful. Stephen A. Smith was like the main analyst, and he didn't know who any of the players were.
I heard like every other player at least. He was like, I've never heard of this guy before in my life.
Meanwhile, you got Mel Kiper Jr. knows who some clown from Kent State is. He's a third string tackle
or something.
Who's got short arms and shouldn't even be picked. But I know who this guy is. Yeah. He's got tape on him. This is a great sleeper pick for this team. Meanwhile, Stephen is like,
just in the seventh round.
I mean, and to be fair, I'm pretty confident that Mel Kiper doesn't actually know who a lot of those guys are, but he does a good job of selling it. And that's what at least sell it, Stephen A.
He at least has a producer or somebody that's looked at tape,
who's like prepared notes for him that he can pull up on his display or whatever. Like, at least fake like you know it, Stephen A. Come on.
Stephen A. didn't have time for that.
No,
it was really bad.
Oh man,
I didn't even know the NBA draft was happening. When was it?
It happened. Oh man, that was
like a week and a half.
3 weeks ago.
It's usually on Thursday. Kramer drilled a guy, and now he gave up a hit.
Just get him out of here.
So yeah, it was was really bad product, and they split it up over 2 days, which is unusual.
Just the first round?
Yeah.
No. It's 2 rounds. So they did 1 round the first day.
Yeah, which is unusual.
They
They used to do just both rounds the same night, where they have like the commissioner would announce the picks for the first round, and then the deputy commissioner would do the second round. Yep. So that's Nikola Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. So it was a Quesarito commercial or something. So that happened too. Anyway, the draft coverage was terrible, and it makes it all the more frustrating the fact that ESPN is effectively gaining even more of control of the NBA market because TNT is bowing out after this year. So
is somebody replacing?
NBC is supposed to be in on this, but it's annoying. I don't like it.
Oh.
TNT is Inside the NBA is the flagship NBA studio show, and it's going by the wayside so that we can get more Stephen A. Smith, who I like. Mm-hmm. The Yankees are just having a comedy of errors themselves, so this is just a disaster pair of games going on right now.
Yes.
Just
ugly. Do not put this on the Tommy Mansky tape.
We got to make sure we have Stephen A. out there telling us which NBA player is Charmander.
Those bits are funny, though.
They are funny. But come on.
I mean, or when he's looking at anime characters he's never heard of and determining who would win in a fight, he usually gets the call right. He seems to have. But the thing is, I don't really blame Stephen A. so much as I blame the fact that ESPN's opted to just pay 2 guys, which means, and one of those guys is Pat McAfee, who's useless. So it basically means Stephen A. Smith has to do everything. He has to be your draft analyst, your NBA analyst, your morning host, your reporter, whatever. It's like he can't do all this stuff at once.
Radio show.
Yeah, he's spread too thin. They don't have legit basketball analysis anymore, and they got Kendrick Perkins up there, right? Like, come on, Big Perk ain't cutting it. You know? It's just it's no good. So anyway, we can move on.
Oh, okay. Let's see. We did baseball, basketball. Well, not all of basketball. The WNBA is currently going on. What happened?
Oh, I didn't know we had notes in there.
Yeah,
I mean, we do have notes, but
I'll talk about it. So, Caitlin Clark on Saturday. Wow, great timing there on that sneeze. Mm-hmm. She helped the Fever come back to beat the Liberty by 5 points thanks to a 19-point, 13 assist, 12 rebound performance. That is right. She recorded a triple-double on Saturday. It is the first triple-double by a rookie in WNBA history. She is the 16th player overall to have recorded one. She's now just 2 triple-doubles shy of a tie for second place all-time. But she is 12 behind the all-time leader, and that would be the Maryland Terrapin great Alyssa Thomas.
Nice.
Yeah, she's got 13. Meanwhile, Angel Reese, who everybody loves to talk about their rivalry. We watched them play against each other a few times in college, and they were always entertaining games. The Fever and the Sky have played a couple of times this season already, and those have been pretty entertaining games. She now has 13 consecutive double-doubles. That is a new all-time record for the WNBA, passing Candace Parker, who once had 12 in a row. It also sets the single-season record for overall double-doubles in the W. So right now we're kind of in the midst of a really interesting Rookie of the Year race, and it's only going to get more interesting. They got about one more week of games. Then they have their All-Star game on the 20th. And then the regular season pauses until August 15th because they're taking a break for the Olympics. At that point, there will be about a month left in the season. They'll begin the playoffs in late September.
So is the Rookie of the Year race actually interesting, though? Because I know that they've both had good rookie years, but it seems like Caitlin Clark's clearly ahead in the race by betting odds and by performance as well.
By betting odds, certainly she seems to be pretty far ahead. By performance, I think it's a little bit closer than the odds might suggest. I would still lean Caitlin Clark for sure at this point. And I think that there is there's the perception that a big part of Angel Reese's rebound numbers are offensive rebounds off her own misses. Now, we kind of talked about this in our chat earlier this week, and Eric, you pointed out that even if you were to take away all of her offensive rebounds off her own missed shots, and there are a lot of them, a lot of them,
Yes.
she would still lead the WNBA in offensive rebounds by a pretty comfortable margin.
Yeah.
So this is not just off of her own inefficient shooting near the rim. Like, she is a dominant force on the offensive glass. She's a good player on the defensive glass. She is scoring, just not at the rate that Caitlin Clark is. So I think that if the season ended today, it would be Caitlin Clark for sure. But I think that Angel Reese is, drawing a little bit closer over time. I think that she's, kind of making a case, and I think that by the end of the season, she could be right in that race, and it really could be a toss-up.
Yeah, I know that I'm programmed to look at stats from the perspective of, following the NBA. So when I see like a sub 40% shooter at the power forward position, I'm kind of like, what's going on here? And of course, I've observed plenty of it. I've seen Angel miss a lot of shots in close, which is, I don't care whether this is the W or the NBA. You can't be smoking layups like that.
That's and certainly, she probably deserves a little bit of credit for at least, creating second chance opportunities off of those misses, right? So, yes, she may be shooting inefficiently, but she's, scoring at almost the rate that she should be if she was, shooting it at 50 or 60%, at a respectable percentage.
Sure.
But she still is a pretty inefficient shooter.
Yeah.
So you do have to dock her a little bit for that.
Yeah, and I think you also have to consider, again, I'm not trying to gas up Caitlin Clark here, but oh no. Oh, well, this game's over.
Yep. Ian Happ
could have kept it a two-run game.
Please don't tell me he's in Sam's
Instead, he gives up
today.
a 3-run bomb onto Utah Street. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he is. He's in Sam's lineup. God dang it.
Such a bum. All right. Anyway, like Caitlin Clark's also been harmed by poor play from teammates. Like, let's face it.
Yeah.
There's a reason they were picking 1-1.
They blow a lot of her assists. In fact, they not only blow a lot of her assists,
they drop a lot of her passes. They turn them into
turnovers.
Yeah, they drop a lot of her passes.
Because if she throws a pass and they butterfinger it out of bounds, the turnover goes to Clark.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's usually how it's scored. So, like, everybody's like, her turnovers are sky high. I'm like, well, yeah, part of that is because she's, trying to make plays in a tougher league to make plays in. And she's, taking more risks, and the WNBA's got better defenders.
And part of it is on her teammates.
A lot of times they're fumbling the ball. And, so I'm just kind of looking at that. I'm like, if you had a decent team around you, your numbers would be way better. Oh my God. I think that one might go foul.
Yeah, it's foul.
Yeah, but... what is going on? Get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm excited to see how this is going to go down because this is all we really have during the summer other than baseball, and as we can see tonight, sometimes baseball can be got to turn the game off type of situation because this is exhausting. So
it's not quite all we have over the summer.
Yeah, we got the bikes.
Yeah. So onto the bikes. That's all I got.
Yeah. Let's talk about the bikes.
Yeah, the bikes.
Tour de France is in full swing, moving into its second week now. And probably the biggest highlight to me so far, and there's been some really good moments, but at least to this point in the tour, I think it's got to be stage 5. Sir Mark Cavendish, who was knighted this past year for all that he has done on the bikes, captured his 35th career stage win at the Tour de France, which breaks a tie that he was in with Eddie Merckx. So he is now the all-time leader for stage wins in Tour de France history, which is really exciting. He's an older guy who a couple of years ago had a nice run of wins, individual stage wins, and was able to pull into that tie. And then going into last year's tour, there were a lot of questions about was any team even going to sign him to their 9-man tour team. And finally, he found one that was willing to sign him. He got on and didn't win a stage. He, in fact, crashed out maybe about a week in. It was fairly early in the tour, I believe, that he crashed out last year. And it was really disappointing, and it was really emotional, and there were a lot of questions. Nobody really knew if he was going to make it into the tour last year. So it kind of felt like that was probably it. And then, lo and behold, he finds a team to bring him on for this year. And now it's a question of, does he have the legs? He's another year older. We've got a lot of really strong sprinters in the Tour de France. And, you got guys like Jasper Philipsen, who won the points competition last year. You've got Biniam Girmay, who in stage 3 became the first black African biker to ever win a stage at the Tour de France. He's an Eritrean. He wound up also winning stage 8, so now he's got 2 individual stage wins this year. You got a lot of really strong sprinters. Can Mark Cavendish contend with them? And he did, and he beat them out with a really impressive sprint at the end of stage 5. So I was really excited for him. That was really cool. The 2 stage wins for Girmay definitely were highlights so far of the tour. He's currently leading the points competition. Jasper Philipsen was able to pull a little bit closer. He's the defending points champion. He won today's stage. So we'll see if he's able to make some headway. But if Girmay continues to finish high up, maybe get another stage win, it's going to be really hard to rip that green jersey away from him. France has had some good representation so far in this tour. Romain Bardet is a former contender for the GC title. It's the yellow jersey competition. But he never did wear the yellow jersey until this year. He won stage 1 to capture his first career yellow jersey. Lost it the next day, but really exciting for him. The next day, Kevin Vauquelin won. He's another Frenchman. And then French compatriot Anthony Turgis won stage 9 on Sunday. So they've had 3 stage wins for the country so far. Tadej Pogačar is currently leading all the GC riders. You guys know his name. Remco Evenepoel is a newcomer. It's his first tour. He's in the young rider competition, but he's currently second in the yellow jersey competition, which is really impressive. A week and change in. Jonas Vingegaard is third. It hasn't really shown the form that we've come to expect over the last 2 years. When he won the tour both times, but as I mentioned going into the tour, he had a pretty bad injury earlier this season. He didn't really get to do much on the bike for several months, so he's just really in the past couple of weeks come back to being able to ride. We had the first few days of the tour were in Italy, which was really interesting. Stage 4 was the earliest mountain stage the tour has had in at least the last 14 or 15 years that I've been watching the tour. So that was pretty cool to see a big mountaintop or mountain stage. It wasn't a mountaintop finish because they actually had a pretty long, like 15 kilometer or so descent off the last hill to the finish line, which was really entertaining to watch because Tadej Pogačar put down a really impressive, decisive move as they were approaching the summit. Jonas Vingegaard tried to go with him, lost a little bit of time at the top, and then just did not have the form on the descent, and Pogačar was able to extend his lead with some really nifty riding around the corners and downhill. Remco Evenepoel, who I just mentioned, won the individual time trial on Friday with Pogačar and Vingegaard behind him. And then we're going to gear up now for 3 mountain stages in the next 5 days. Then they'll get rest day number 2. Then they'll close with a similar stretch. And then the second individual time trial into Nice will conclude this year's race in stage 21 in a couple of Sundays. So that's pretty much where we are at with the bikes.
Cool.
I had just taken a quick look at the baseball standings, and of course it's now loading again because there's no internet in here. The Yankees lead the Red Sox by 4.5 games coming into today. I don't know when and where the Red Sox are playing, but I assume they have a game today, so we will see what happens.
Boston is playing right now. They are in the bottom of the second inning at home, and they are beating the Athletics 3-2.
Oh, okay. And then I guess I also wanted to talk about, speaking of the Athletics, Eric and I attended a game at the Oakland Coliseum. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was delightful. Just the best vibes of any stadium, right? Like, everybody was just there to have a good time. There are people tailgating for hours in the parking lot, like it's a football game. Let's see. The first place we went was up to, I believe, the Treehouse Bar.
Yep.
They had pool tables and ping pong in there, in addition to a bar, obviously.
I would have ruled those people at ping pong.
You kept saying that, but you didn't get on the table,
No.
right? Like,
No.
Why?
I don't need to
Because it's
flex.
easier to say that you could do it than to actually go out there and prove it.
That's also
Yes.
true. I didn't feel compelled to show up a bunch of strangers, I'm good.
Yeah. Like, I feel like I could play better than Ramon Urias at baseball, but that is not what the truth is. So,
You sure? Because
I mean,
it's pretty bad.
I wouldn't hit the ball ever.
Well, does he?
He hits it some of the time, somewhere.
That's true.
But anyway, yeah. So that was all sort of within Mount Davis, if you will, and then like the same bar had a patio that overlooked the whole field. It's very, I guess, warm and sunny versus blazing hot and sunny, right?
Yes.
The Bay Area weather, I still don't understand it. So like all of last week, I was checking the weather app for San Francisco, thinking this is the general idea of what the weather's going to be. That was wrong. Mm-hmm. Very, very wrong.
Way off.
Yes. Yeah, it's an air ball, Mike.
Yes.
Oh boy. So it would be like low 70s in San Francisco proper, and then like 20 miles down the road, it's like 100 with no clouds.
Yeah. Super hot everywhere except
How is
for...
it that cool in San Francisco?
not know.
It's probably just because it's being on the water. It's
The marine layer
yeah,
or
or
something
something
I
like
don't know.
that. Like it's like because they got the Bay and the Pacific. I guess I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like I pointed out. It's like if you went outside in DC, and then it's hot and you have shorts on, and you drove up to Baltimore,
And
you
you
wouldn't
coat.
think you'd need a jacket. But that's what it's like in San Francisco. Like, it was blazing hot in Santa Clara where the San Francisco 49ers play, but actual San Francisco, it was chilly.
Yeah. And foggy.
Yeah, very foggy.
Interesting.
I don't get the sense the sun ever comes out in San Francisco. Like all these pictures of Golden Gate Bridge where you can actually see it, I think those are a lie. Because we drove over the bridge twice. I still haven't seen the bridge
You
yet.
didn't see it coming
No.
the other time.
No.
You're like, oh, we're on it.
Yeah.
Once we got off of it, it was sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like as
mean,
soon as
it was
we
a
descended
day-night
off
difference.
off the bridge, because we went over it twice, and the same thing happened both times. Like it looked like the Stephen King movie The Mist going over it, where just like you can't see nothing, and then as soon as you're off of it, it's like, oh, it's bright and sunny again.
Yeah.
It's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, very, very strange. So, yeah, and the Orioles did win the game that we attended on Friday.
They did not win on Saturday.
They
No, they did
the
not.
opposite of win on Saturday.
Yikes!
The exact opposite.
Got smoked.
Yeah. Like every time we were driving to, we were going a bunch of places on Saturday.
Saturday was nuts.
Yeah. And like every time I looked at my phone, oh, the A's scored like 10 more runs. Like, what happened?
How many times you look at your phone? Might have believed that they scored 80 runs.
They might as well scored 80 runs.
This is a flood of runs. That's for sure.
Yeah. So
Highly explosive and full of runs, like Taco Bell offense.
yes,
you know,
Orioles
so.
Taco Bell offense and Taco Bell bullpen, just both.
And
of them.
starting pitcher that day because Cade Povich
And starting
got lit
pitcher
up.
tonight. Yeah.
And Brian Baker. Oh, you
Oh,
got an out.
he got somebody out. He got somebody else out.
Well,
That's
Masher
two outs for
Brony
Baker.
also went way up to get that one.
Well, that's-
Probably wasn't going to get
that's
much
on
on
him.
that.
Should have swung at that.
You've been
Yeah, he
watching
shouldn't.
Trumbo highlights or something. So yeah, Eric, what did you think of O.Co Coliseum?
I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? Like it's ugly, right? Like the stupid, Raiders section that's still there where they tarp over with the athletics with the Ricky Henderson and Reggie Jackson and Raleigh Fingers and all that stuff, and Catfish Hunter. Like, that's an eyesore. That doesn't need to be there, especially not now. Especially now that there's no football team playing there. And I've seen.
Well, there's not gonna be a baseball team playing there for much longer either.
You don't really know that, to be honest. Like, the A's have no idea what they're doing. Like, they'll probably be gone next season. They could easily come back.
They're not playing at Oco again.
You would hope not, but I wouldn't.
They're playing at like some college stadium next year.
They're playing at a AAA stadium in Sacramento.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be blazing hot
somewhere
there.
else where it's blazing hot. There was a fan over the weekend
roof over there
who had a sign saying Oakland 75 degrees, Sacramento 101 degrees, Las Vegas 115 degrees or something like that. And then at the bottom, this is stupid.
Yes.
And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it is stupid.
Oakland was wonderful.
Yeah, since we were out there, we didn't get to watch the Orioles on television, so we didn't get to appreciate the amount of time that both Kevin Brown and Jim Palmer spent not only, lauding the history of the Oakland A's, but also talking about how ridiculous it is they're leaving. And, it's been a pretty consistent thing that Kevin Brown beat on when the Orioles hosted the A's. Like, he talked about that a lot when he was calling those games. And apparently, obviously, it continues when you're there. A lot of the Orioles players had good things to say about just the fact that this is a historic building. And while it makes sense to not play baseball games there anymore because it's a relic,
Not in that building.
It doesn't make sense for the A's to not play in Oakland, right? Yeah. There's a fan base that has a level of dedication. And, you borrow a word that Tony Kornheiser used when it looked like the Wizards were going to leave D.C. This is villainy, right? Like, this is purely and simply the wrong decision made by a bad guy.
Yeah.
You got a stand hour.
I did. I completed my stand ring while sitting.
Oh, okay.
That happened on the airplane a lot, too. When we were flying to San Francisco, I was racking up stand hours despite spending no time standing. So there you go. But I thought the ballpark was better than I thought. I liked the amenities that they had, right? Like they had good food options, although I didn't buy any. They had the bars were really well furnished. Like it didn't look like crap.
Yeah.
Like there were certain parts where you saw the age of this thing. What in God's name was that pitched by Rodon? Like, that was
just a bit outside.
Yeah.
Just a little high.
I mean, the design of the stadium is old.
Yeah,
right?
it's archaic.
Like it's got scissor ramps instead of escalators.
And you had that crazy tunnel that we had to walk down. That was just
that thing that was wild.
Yeah.
It's like built into, like there's a berm around it. So like when we went in, we went up some stairs outside, and then we're at the upper level. Then, I think.
And yet here you were trying to suggest that it's a better stadium than Yankee Stadium, which is just absurd. Like, Yankee Stadium may be extremely overrated. It is such a better stadium than Oco.
Oh, well, I mean, we had seats in the second level, and they were close to the field.
Everyone was terrified.
Yes.
Several foul balls came in a general direction. None came directly at us, but they were coming in hot, and Evan is not prepared to make a catch. So,
No.
I had to bring your glove.
I had to remind myself not to be on my phone too much because, I prefer to have both hands available. And if I got like normally a lot of times I tuck my phone in between my legs when I'm not using it. The problem is if I have to stand up, that thing's gonna hit the ground. So that's not ideal. So I was like, put it in your pocket, Eric. You gotta be ready to catch a ball because Evan's gonna duck and cover, and Sasquatch's not catching anything either. So I'm gonna have to be the hands team. So
He was there too?
Yeah. Shout out to friend of the show, Sasquatch, who met us out there.
Friend of the show who's listened to 0 episodes and has blocked 1/3 of our hosts. So
I mean,
what was he doing out there?
He decided like a couple weeks ago. He actually asked us, "Hey, 4th of July weekend, the Orioles are going to be in Oakland, and I'm planning on going to San Francisco. You guys want to go?" I was like, "Yeah, we're already going."
Yeah.
So we bought him a ticket as well, and he came to the game with us. And, we hung out afterwards. Went to In-N-Out. Which
cool.
that was cool. He was there, but yeah, I thought the vibes were good, as Evan said. It was Jerry Garcia night, which Evan had no idea who that was.
Still don't know who that is.
As in Jerry's Garcia? As in like the ice cream from Ben and Jerry's?
It's probably that ice cream is referencing Jerry Garcia.
Yes.
Who, for those who don't know,
is that?
which is
Loves chocolate chunks and cherries.
which is, apparently only me. Jerry Garcia was the front man for the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Corey knows that, or maybe he just found out. He's pretending he knew that the whole
I,
time.
I did know that.
Okay, Corey did know that. Big fan. Of,
Only because of the ice cream, though.
big fan of the Grateful Dead was the late great Bill Walton, who we talked about a few weeks ago. But yes, that it was Grateful Dead night. They were playing a bunch of Grateful Dead songs over the loudspeakers and stuff. Apparently, they had I guess it was a Grateful Dead tribute band performing in a pregame concert that we did not attend. So yeah, it was kind of fun. That was exciting. The fans there obviously loved the team because why else would you be here if you didn't love this terrible team? But yeah, it was a good time. I didn't see any possums or sewage or rats. So
No.
But yes, Evan, chocolate chunks and cherries in vanilla ice cream is delicious.
I will pass.
that doesn't sound like something I'd be interested in either.
No. I don't really
I don't
like
like cherries.
fruit desserts
Not a
most of the
cherry
time.
guy. Yeah.
Like, I'll do apple pie, but like, blueberries and raspberries.
Well, you hate the existence of pumpkins, apparently.
They're utterly useless. Pumpkins serve no purpose on the earth.
They do if you have nutmeg.
Pumpkin pie is pretty good, man.
It pales in comparison to sweet potato pie.
Ugh.
So you need
No.
to, you only
No.
work on your orange goo management.
You
I
gotta,
can- I
you're
can
talking to
have-
a couple of whites. You got to understand that.
I can have a slice of sweet potato pie. It's fine. But I can't have a second slice and not be sick of the taste. I can have two
I
slices.
eat the whole pie.
I could, like, if it didn't like
Doing that
physically
whole
make me
thing.
sick, I could eat the whole pumpkin pie without like without my taste buds being sick of it.
I'll
that
eat it
stuff out
if
here.
even if it does make me sick. Yeah, I don't care.
Like I like a good slice of sweet potato pie. Don't get me wrong, but I can't just like continue eating
With
it.
a nice glass of milk too. You know your boy loves his milk.
Gotta get some whipped cream on
Evan
there.
was shocked that I bought milk at California's Great America.
Oh, at an amusement park.
Yes.
He bought
You bought milk at an amusement park?
Yeah. We went into this place strictly to get a piece of chocolate cake.
which was delicious.
It was great.
So, okay, so you got milk with your chocolate cake.
Yes. I
Okay.
bought, like they were selling the little
And
bottles
you
of milk.
like sat there and ate your cake and drank your milk.
Yes.
In the air conditioning.
What did you?
I'm thinking like
I was
I'm
walking
thinking
around with it, like-
I'm thinking like when Evan got his Pepsi and I got my Starry and we're like walking around the park. I'm thinking you're like holding this plastic bottle of milk that is just getting warmer and warmer
No.
and warmer because of how hot it is outside. I'm like,
bottle
that
of
sounds
cheese.
awful. Right?
Yes, a bottle of cottage cheese as I walk around the park.
Yes,
No.
exactly. That is what was going through my mind. That is why I was giving you a look of disgust.
I think I would get sick drinking milk while walking around in the heat. Right? Like it's just. Ugh.
I'm
No.
like, you either have to drink it so fast it doesn't warm up, which is not a good thing to do with milk.
No.
Or you've got to hold it long enough for it to get warm, which is also not a good thing to do with milk.
No, I was drinking it with my cake, sitting down in the shade, so it was fine. Totally fine. Evan still was shocked that I got milk. No idea that I was going to do that. I'm like, really? But what else am I going to drink with cake? I'm not gonna,
Nice ice cold glass of milk with cake. You don't like milk? What do you put in your cereal? Do you just eat your cereal dry, Evan?
I mean, I get lactose-free milk, so it's not, like the Orioles pitching in offense a lot of times.
Okay,
The
but
Taco Bell situation.
okay. But here's the thing: like, if you don't mind lactose-free milk, then you don't mind the concept of milk. You just can't deal with the lactose. But for somebody who can, they'll just drink the regular milk. But it's the
mean,
same concept.
I
your
don't
boy
like
goes through
drinking
some lactose.
white
Just
milk.
saying. Your boy
in general.
goes through some lactose.
Yeah.
Milk, ice cream, I don't care. Dairy products. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, somebody who gets lactose-free milk, right? You're probably only getting that for your cereal, right? Because if you're lactose intolerant, then you didn't grow up drinking milk like in a glass, right? Like you literally only ever used it for your cereal. So I can understand why like you wouldn't go and like pour yourself a glass of lactose-free milk and like sit there drinking it. But if you're used to drinking milk, then yeah, you might do that occasionally, especially if you have a delicious piece of chocolate cake, because that is what goes with it. It's like cookies.
It was money.
You got to have milk with your cookies.
It was incredible. Like the other option was for me to buy a Pepsi, which I love me some Pepsi, but with chocolate cake, It's not really a good mix.
Yeah, and that's a lot of extra sugar. I mean, there's sugar in milk.
I don't care
but
about that. I couldn't care less about that, man.
I drank 4 sodas on the way home.
Yes, I did. I was.
Oh my god!
I was Fuller McAllister or whatever. I had I had a Coke or a Pepsi at the airport, and then
At the San Francisco airport, which was a disaster food-wise.
Yes,
just a
just
bunch of hipster
hipster
stuff
nonsense
I've never heard
stuff.
of.
But yeah, and then I had 2 Cokes on the plane to Charlotte, and then I had another Coke with Bojangles.
Yes.
Yeah. So
You went to Bojangles. You didn't get the sweet tea. What's wrong with you?
I got a Coke. I don't know what to tell you.
No, you gotta get the sweet tea at Bojangles. Come
I
on.
think I had a Pepsi.
I haven't had a Pepsi too.
I'm so disappointed in you two.
Oh,
I mean, that's fine. I can live with that. My mom says pumpkin pie is so much better than sweet potato pie.
that's inaccurate, right? Erroneous fabrication, untethered from reality.
Okay, well,
That's not what the truth is.
you can be wrong by yourself here. Yeah, that's okay.
You know, just pumpkin pie is so much. Get out of here. I would abolish pumpkins and then mosquitoes, right?
Wait,
Get 'em
you
outta
got
here.
the- I'm
Order's
sorry.
messed up
What
here,
the
man.
hell?
Mosquitoes go before pumpkins. Come on now. Come on now. That's not a real take.
Yeah.
Pumpkins don't bite you and make your skin itch.
Yeah, you do realize that you can just choose not to eat anything with pumpkin in it. But if you go outside, you can't just choose not to get bitten by a mosquito.
We spend a lot of time outside
Yeah.
in some places with a lot of bugs.
Ooh,
So,
like where we're going this week.
yes. So, keep
So
that
you
in mind.
sure you still want to abolish pumpkins before you do mosquitoes?
I think it'd be easier. Tell you that. But obviously mosquitoes need to go first. But you know, get the pumpkins out of here. Just useless orange balls. Come on.
Evan did warn
this
you
is-
all this week that this was just going to be whatever we felt like talking
So
about today.
I got some more input from the parents. My dad's response about sweet potato pie is not safe for this podcast.
Oh, jeez. That might be a little too strong.
He says, sweet potato pie, really Christ. But it did not start with sweet potato pie. It started with a 4-letter word and then an ing at the end. So you can use your imagination. So yeah, and then, but he did say, Corey, you were right about the sweet tea at Bojangles. So there's a win for you.
I'm telling you, like, if you go to Bojangles, you got to get the sweet tea.
I just wanted soda. I was tired. I was running on fumes. We slept for 2 hours.
Oh yeah, we did only sleep 2 hours that night.
Yeah.
We got stuck in traffic coming back from Santa Cruz. There was an accident, and there's only one road, so if the road is closed, you're not going
So
anywhere.
it seems like you guys could have split the time and taken a nap in the passenger seat while the other was driving through the traffic.
I mean,
I don't know how long we're going to be there.
yeah, might have. Yeah, that's something that
Mostly
shouldn't have
joking
happened,
anyway.
right? We
Yeah.
got stuck.
Yeah, it was no good. But yeah. Anyway, how did we get? What were we talking about now?
I have no
I
idea.
don't remember where we were, but we do have a little bit of NFL stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, I thought
we
we
got
were
football.
done. So I started, just yammering. Hard Knocks debuted, which there's so many Hard Knocks
Yeah, there's
now.
now 3 different Hard Knocks. You've got the training camp Hard Knocks that we are all familiar with. We've got the in-season Hard Knocks that started like 2 or 3 years ago. Now we've got Hard Knocks off-season, and this year it's with the New York Giants.
That
so
sounds like a
we get to
nothing show.
see into a clown show of an organization that is trying to portray itself as turning it around.
See, I wish this existed for like an inside scoop on watching the Los Angeles Lakers or somebody like that. Watching the Bus family, except for the good Bus guy is gone. But you got Jeannie Bus and that other idiot son and Rob Pelinka and sprinkling a little LeBron.
Maybe the NBA needs
Phil
to
Jackson.
invest on some of
JJ
these kind.
Redick. Give me some of that.
Maybe they need to invest in some of these kinds of shows like the NFL does, because the NFL knows how to promote itself. That is for sure.
I agree with
So I watched the first episode, and it was interesting. It's following the New York Giants and looking at last week's episode kind of took you from the end of the regular season into the beginning of the off season. Showed you a little bit of insight behind the scenes on conversations that their general manager and his scouts and the rest of his staff were having regarding different running backs that were going to be coming available in free agency, as well as Saquon Barkley. who we all know eventually went to the Eagles. He tested free agency, but they were having a lot of conversations about, should we offer him a contract? What kind of contract can we offer him? What kind of contract are we willing to offer him? Is it worth it if he's going to feel offended by the offer? Maybe it'd be better just to let him test out free agency, which is ultimately the route that they took, rather than, lowballing him. But they have a big board, kind of like they have for the draft, where they're looking at a portal of all these different free agents and, talking about, okay, like how much money are they going to expect to get on a contract? What are their skills? What kind of market is there going to be? Should we try and go after somebody early on in the process, or should we wait because, very few teams are really going to go hard after these players, and maybe some of the prices will come down a bit. So it's interesting to get that kind of behind the scenes look into the inner workings of roster building in the NFL. That's a side of things that we haven't really gotten to see with the other Hard Knocks. With the training camp one, you've seen the decisions about who to cut, but that's purely based on the guys who are already in the building, who are out there on the practice field during training camp, getting playing time during preseason games. Now we're getting a chance to see what do those conversations look like when you're going off of last year's tape and you're talking about players who are not in your building right now. On top of that, they went through they hired a new defensive coordinator, and I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, but he was the defensive coordinator for the Titans before going to the Giants. He was there with Mike Vrabel.
Is that Dean Pease?
No. I don't remember his name, but it wasn't Dean Pease. But in any case, they bring him in, and they're asking him a lot of questions about, what does your scheme look like? What kind of players do you need? So they're talking to not just the head coach, but to the coordinators and the position coaches to really try and make it a collaborative process as they are building this roster and using the financial resources they have to do that. So it's pretty interesting. I enjoyed the first episode. The second episode airs tonight at 9 p.m., and they will be continuing to release on Tuesdays through July 30th.
Do the episodes actually air, or that's when it becomes available?
It airs.
To stream
I think it actually airs on HBO at 9, but it also goes on Max at 9 o'clock. And so, and last week's episode was it was 40 minutes long. So a typical Hard Knocks episode runs the full hour. So if the rest of the episodes are going to follow the same pattern, it's a little bit shorter. It's not quite as big of a time commitment, which I think is good because the information is a little bit less dense. You're not getting any real action on the field. I think tonight's is going to get into the combine, so you'll see a little bit of that kind of stuff, but you're not getting any
months ago.
Yeah. So this is not the same where with the training camp and the in-season Hard Knocks,
it's a week later.
It's what was going on the past week. So they are editing it quick for the show. This is, they've taken stuff from over the course of the offseason, which I think is also important because there's not as much going on each individual week during the offseason.
It's the off-season.
Is there really enough that has happened last week to fill a 40-minute or hour-long show this week? Absolutely not. Not that's going to be interesting for the audience. And even with, a course of a few weeks that they covered in last week's episode, if it had been longer than 40 minutes, it might have started to lose my interest. It certainly would have lost the interest of somebody who is not as invested in following the NFL as I am.
Okay. Dean Kramer, only 5 of the 7 runs were earned.
So we
a lot of errors.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, a comedy of them.
Yes, just a lot of those. There's Josh Allen news.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the defensive end, is changing his name to Josh Hines Allen.
Yeah, so Josh Allen will never again sack or pick off Josh Allen.
Okay.
So Hines comes from the maternal side of his family. His uncle Gregory Hines was a Hall of Fame basketball player at Hampton University. Drafted by the Warriors, but never played for them. He played in the CBA and another professional basketball league. I forget which one. He also has 3 sisters who played college basketball, including Maisha Hines Allen, who currently plays for the Washington Mystics. So it's an homage to that side of his family. It matches what is on the backs of his sisters' jerseys when they played basketball. So it's the off season. There's not a whole lot of super interesting or important news going on, but this one was kind of interesting, and good for him to show that love. I also thought it was funny because Scott Hansen loves to bring up when the two of them play against each other. Unfortunately, he won't get to do that this year, not only because it won't be quite the same, but also their Week 3 matchup is on Monday Night Football, so it won't be on the Red Zone.
That's a Monday night game?
Yeah, Week 3.
That sounds brutal.
That's a Thursday night football.
Maybe the Jaguars will
there.
still be interesting early in the season.
Jags, Bills.
Yeah.
It's in Buffalo, I hope.
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess there's some Lions-ish news.
Yeah.
Former Lion Cam Sutton, who signed with Pittsburgh over the offseason, has been suspended for the first 8 games of the season for violating the league's personal conduct policy. There was an suspension stems from NFL's investigation of the arrest warrant issued for him in March following an alleged domestic violence incident.
Yes, the NFL did their own investigation of that situation and ultimately determined that there was enough there that he had violated the personal conduct policy. So this is mostly just interesting to me because this is the guy who I was, bemoaning throughout the playoffs for acting a clown on the field, pulling guys off piles after the play in the Rams game, almost injured. I forget which quarterback it was. It wasn't the 49ers game. I forget which game it was, but he tackled a quarterback or somebody and continued the tackle well out of bounds and could have injured him and should have, in my opinion, been flagged for unnecessary roughness on the play. Didn't draw a penalty that time, but I was very vocally frustrated with Cam Sutton, particularly during the playoffs. I did not miss him when the Lions decided not to bring him back, and I miss him even less now.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, sounds good. I guess we've sort of mixed in our late show yammering sort of earlier. So I guess that'll do it for this week's show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you've made it this far into this podcast, go and smash the subscribe button. Let's see. If you would like to reach out to us, you could do so by emailing thesportsballers@gmail.com. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon podcasts. Follow us on Twitter @SportsBallers18. Follow Corey on Twitter @Corey Puffett. Follow Eric on Twitter @Quagmire67. And follow me on Twitter @Evan_Ash13. You should like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And I think that's all the things. So before we get out of here, any shout-outs? Because I have a couple.
I've got a couple. Shout out firstly to my parents for hosting a baby shower for Rashonda and myself this weekend. It was a lot of fun. Had a decent amount of my family come out, as well as a good friend of mine, William Kellogg, and his wife made the drive out there to the Eastern Shore for it. So that was really cool. And then I just want to give a shout out to Christian Walker because I feel bad for the guy for being snubbed because that's a true snub from the All-Star game.
That's a ridiculous snub.
He has been probably the best first baseman in the National League this year. Definitely better than Pete Alonso has been. Pete Alonso got in off of his name, but he has not been that good this year.
What is his name anyway? What is Pete Alonso's name? He hit 50 homers as a rookie. That was years ago at this point.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we put that behind us, please?
Yeah. Christian Walker has been exceptional this year. He's hitting a ton of home runs. He had 5 home runs in 3 games in the at Dodger Stadium last week. He also had a really impressive defensive play just last night. It was either last night or the night before, stabbing a hard ground ball down the line to record an out in a situation where things look like they could be getting out of hand against the Braves. Now, the Braves did ultimately win that game, but he made a really spectacular defensive play. I don't understand how he's not in the All-Star game, so I just want to give him a shout-out.
You know what I'm going to say, right?
Frankie Lindor?
No. Orioles legend, Christian Walker.
Oh, is he an Oriole?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
Briefly, yeah.
Yes, very briefly.
Yes.
He wasn't special. Keegan Aiken is in the game. I'll go next because mine are not serious. Positive. I've got positive shout out. All the workers at all the airports, parks, and hotels on our most recent trip. And negative, the A's owner, John Fisher, who just sucks as a human being. He's responsible for the A's leaving. He's responsible for being a billionaire and not putting up 1 cent of his own money to get the A's a new stadium. It's this is a solvable problem that he's created. And like Eric said earlier, it's villainy. And it's
scum and villainy.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking that a fan base has to lose their team this way. Particularly, the Warriors are still in the metro area, but like the Raiders. I don't know what's thinking about the Lakers. The Raiders already left the same building to go to Las Vegas.
And the Warriors vacated the buildings right next door.
Yeah.
We saw Oracle Arena as it stands doing nothing right now.
Yeah. So, honestly, they should knock down Oracle Arena and start building the A's a new stadium right there. And then when that's mostly done, knock down O.co and finish the A's ballpark right in that spot. Because that's where it should be.
I do have one more shout out.
Oh.
I want to shout out Rhaenys Targaryen and her dragon Meleys.
Spoilers, Corey.
These are actual people.
I guess I won't say anything anymore. I won't say any more than that because some people may not have seen the last episode of House of the Dragon, but
I saw it.
Definitely want to shout the two of them out. They deserve it this week.
Oh, yeah. It was a great episode this week. Really, really good. All right. So my shout out is to Isaac Hirsch, who is the current Jeopardy champion, and I just verified this on Reddit. He won tonight, so now he's a 5-time champion. Why do I care about this individual? Well, Sean and I went to preschool with Isaac Hirsch. He was one of our classmates, if you will. And he's from Montgomery County. He's on
Was he brilliant back then?
He was 3, so
Probably.
I don't know. He's probably a smart kid.
You could tell if he was putting the blocks in the correct shape holes more often than everybody else was.
I'm not going to talk about what my relationship with this person was when I was 3 or 4 because that could be embarrassing for everybody involved. But apparently his dad was also a Jeopardy contestant back in the day, obviously when Alex Trebek was still hosting. But yeah, it's just...
Did he win a bunch too?
I don't think he's won this much.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad says some of us haven't seen any of it when it comes to House of the Dragon. So, I guess that means shut your mouth or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But anyway.
Are they going to is the
I have
question.
no idea. I don't know, Corey. I don't know these things. But anyway, shout out to Isaac for that. Being a 5-day champion, for those who don't know, guarantees you a spot in the next Tournament of Champions. So regardless of how long Isaac's streak goes, he will be returning to Jeopardy at some point. But for now, hopefully he keeps it going because he's playing really well, and he's been quite charming on the interview stage as well. So glad to see him doing well.
All right.
Is that it? Is that all we got?
I think that's it.
Alrighty. So that'll do it for this week. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.